October 7th, 1899, Volume 2. Jesus, indignant with the people. The state of victim holds back the chastisements. This morning, blessed Jesus was not coming, and I had to have much patience in waiting for him. In my interior, I kept saying, "My dear Jesus, come. Don't make me wait so much. I haven't seen you since last night. And now it is getting late, and you are still not coming? See how much patience I have had in waiting for you. Oh, please do not let it be that I reach the point of losing patience because of your long delay in coming, because then you would be the cause of it, with your delays. Therefore come, for I can take no more." Now while I was saying this and other nonsense, my only good came, but to my highest sorrow, I saw him almost indignant with the people. Immediately I said to him, "My good Jesus, I pray you to make peace with the world." And he, "Daughter, I cannot. I am like a king who wants to enter into a house, but that house is full of filthy things, of rot, and of many other dirty things. The king, as king, has the power to enter. There is no one who could prevent him, and he could even clean that house with his own hands. But he does not want to do it, because it is not decent for his royal person to descend to such baseness. And until that house is cleaned by someone else, in spite of the fact that he has the power, the will, and a great desire to do it, to the point of suffering for it, he will never deign to place one foot into it. So I am a king who can and wants, but I want their will. I want them to remove the rot of sins before I enter and make peace with them. No, it is not decent for my royalty to enter and make peace with them. On the contrary, I will do nothing but send chastisements. The fire of tribulation will inundate them everywhere, to the point of knocking them down, so that they may remember that a God exists, the only one who can help them and free them." And I, interrupting him, said to him, "Lord, if you want to lay hands to chastisements, I want to come. I no longer want to be on this earth. How will my heart be able to resist in seeing your creatures suffer?" And Jesus, assuming a benign appearance, told me, "If you come, where shall I dwell on this earth? For now let us think about being together down here, for we will have much time to be in heaven, the whole of eternity. And then, too soon have you forgotten your office of acting as my mother on earth. So while I chastise the people, I will come to take refuge and to dwell with you." And I, "Ah, Lord, what is the purpose of my state of victim for so many years? What good has come to the peoples? While you said that you wanted me victim so as to spare people. And now you show how these chastisements, instead of happening many years ago, are happening later. Nothing more and nothing less than this." And he, "My daughter, do not say this. I have been forbearing for love of you, and the good that came from this has been that while terrible chastisements were to rage for a very long time, they will be shorter. Is this not a good, that instead of being under the weight of a chastisement for many years, one remains under it for only a few? Moreover, during the course of these past years, with wars and sudden deaths, they should not have had the time to convert, but they did and were saved. Is this not a great good? My beloved, for now it is not necessary to make you understand the purpose of your state for yourself and for the peoples, but I will show it to you when you come to heaven, and on the day of judgment I will show it to all nations. Therefore do not speak like this any more. October 7th, 1903, Volume 5. The victim souls are human angels who must repair, impetrate, protect humanity. I had asked the confessor to leave me in the will of our Lord, withdrawing the obedience that, whether he wanted it or not, I should continue to remain in this state of victim. At first he did not want it, but then he consented, as long as I would assume the responsibility of answering before Jesus for what could happen in the world. And he said that I should think about it first, and then answer him. I wanted to tell him that I did not want to oppose the divine will. Only, if the Lord wants it, I want it. If he does not want it, I do not want it. So why this responsibility? And he, think about it first, and tomorrow you will answer. So as I was thinking about it in my interior, he told me, justice wants it. Love does not. Then, finding myself in my usual state, I saw him for just a little, and he told me, the angels, whether they obtain something or not, always do their office. They do not withdraw from the work entrusted to them by God, of the custody of souls. Even if they see that, almost in spite of their continuous cares, diligences, industries, and assistances, souls are miserably lost. They are always there, at their places. Nor do they give greater or lesser glory to God if they obtain or do not obtain, because their will is always stable in carrying out the work entrusted to them. The victim souls are human angels who must repair, impetrate, protect humanity, and whether they obtain or do not obtain, they must not cease their work, unless they were assured about it from on high. October 7th, 1909, Volume 9. Caution and jealousy of Jesus in surrounding with thorns both soul and body of creatures. As I was in my usual state, blessed Jesus came for just a little and told me, my daughter, my jealousy and the caution I have for my creatures is such and so great that in order not to let them be ruined, I am forced to surround them with thorns, both soul and body, so that the thorns may keep away from them the mud that could dirty them. This is why, my daughter, I surround with thorns, that is, with bitternesses, with privations, with different interior states, also my greatest favors with which I favor the souls who are dear to me, so that these thorns may not only keep them, but prevent their getting dirty with the mud of love of self and the like. And he disappeared. October 7th, 1928, Volume 25. The opening of the house of the divine will in Corato. Simile of the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. My entrance into it. The Eucharistic lamp and the living lamp of one who does the divine will. The prisoner near the prisoner. Jesus' delight at this company. My Jesus, I am here, near the tabernacle of love. From that adored little door that I have the honor to gaze at, I feel your divine fibers, your heart palpitating, emitting flames and rays of endless light at each heartbeat. And in those flames I hear your moans, your sighs, your incessant supplications, and your repeated sobs. For you want to make your will known, to give its life to all. and I feel myself being consumed with you and repeating what you do. Therefore I pray you, while you gaze at me from within the tabernacle, and I gaze at you from within my bed, to strengthen my weakness, that I may make the sacrifice of continuing to write. Now, in order to be able to say what Jesus told me, I have to make a brief mention that here in Corato a house has been founded that was wanted and started by the venerable memory of Father Canonical Annibale Maria de Francia, and his children, faithful to the will of their founder, have executed and given the name of House of the Divine Will, as the venerable Father wanted. And he wanted me to enter this house. And on the first day of its opening, by their goodness, his sons and daughters, the Reverend Mothers, came to take me and brought me into a room that is such that as the door of this room is opened, I can see the tabernacle. I can listen to Holy Mass. I am just under the gazes of my Jesus in the sacrament. Oh, how happy I feel that from now on, if Jesus wants me to continue to write, I will write always keeping one eye on the tabernacle and the other on the paper I write on. Therefore I pray you, my love, to assist me and to give me the strength to make the sacrifice that you yourself want. So as this house was about to be opened, one could see people, nuns, little girls, people coming and going, all in motion. I felt all impressed, and my sweet Jesus moving in my interior told me, "My daughter, this group of people whom you see all in motion for the opening of the house of my divine will is symbolic of that group of people when I wanted to be born in Bethlehem, and the shepherds were coming and going to visit me, a little baby." This pointed out to all the certainty of my birth. In the same way, this group of people, all in motion, points out the rebirth of the kingdom of my divine will. Look at how all of heaven echoes my birth, when the angels, celebrating it, announced me to the shepherds, and putting them in motion, made them keep coming to me. And I recognized in them the first fruits of the kingdom of my redemption. So now, in this group of people, of little girls and nuns, I recognize the beginning of the kingdom of my divine will. Oh, how my heart exults and rejoices, and all of heaven makes feast. Just as the angels celebrated my birth, so do they celebrate the beginning of the rebirth of my Fiat in the midst of creatures. But look at how my birth was more neglected, more poor. I had not even one priest near me, but only poor shepherds. On the other hand, at the beginning of my volition, there is not only a group of nuns and little girls from out of town, and a people rushing up to celebrate the opening, but there is an archbishop and priests representing my church. This is symbol and announcement to all that the kingdom of my divine volition will be formed with more magnificence, with greater pomp and splendor than the very kingdom of my redemption. And everyone, kings and princes, bishops and priests, and peoples, will know the kingdom of my Fiat and will possess it. Therefore you too celebrate this day in which my sighs and sacrifices, and yours, to make my divine will known, see the first dawn and hope for the sun of my divine Fiat to soon rise. Then the evening came of this day, consecrated to the Queen of the Rosary, Queen of victories and of triumphs. And this is another beautiful sign that just as the sovereign lady conquered her Creator, and bejeweling him with her chains of love, she drew him from heaven to earth, to make him form the kingdom of redemption. So will the sweet and powerful beads of her rosary make her victorious and triumphant again before the divinity, conquering the kingdom of the divine Fiat, and to make it come into the midst of creatures. I had not at all thought that, on that very evening, I would move to the house of the divine will, near my prisoner Jesus. Only, I prayed him not to let me know when this would be, so as not to profane such an act with my human will, so that I might put nothing of my own, but do the divine will in everything. It was 8 o'clock in the evening, when out of the ordinary the confessor came, who, prayed by the Reverend Mother Superiors, imposed out of obedience that I should surrender and make the superiors content. I resisted quite a bit, because I thought that if the Lord wanted so, it would be in the month of April, a warmer season, and so we would think about it then. But the confessor insisted so much that I had to surrender. So around 9:30 in the evening, I was brought to this house, near my prisoner Jesus. And this is the little story of why I find myself in the house of the divine will. Now I resume my speaking. At night, I remained alone with my Jesus in the sacrament. My eyes were fixed on the little door of the tabernacle. It seemed to me that the lamp, with its continuous flickering, was about to go out, but then it would revive again, and my heart gave a jump, fearing that Jesus might remain in the dark. And my always lovable Jesus, moving in my interior, clasped me in his arms and told me, "My daughter, do not fear, for the lamp will not go out, and if it did go out, I have you, living lamp, a lamp which, with your flickering, more than with the flickering of the Eucharistic lamp, tells me, I love you, I love you, I love you." Oh, how beautiful is the flickering of your I love you! Your flickering says love to me, and uniting with my will, from two wills we form one alone. Oh, how beautiful is your lamp, and the flickering of your I love you! It cannot be compared to the lamp that burns before my tabernacle of love. More so since, my divine will being in you, you form the flickering of your I love you in the center of the sun of my Fiat, and I see and hear not a lamp, but a sun burning before me. My prisoner, be welcomed. You have come to keep company with your prisoner. We are both in prison, you in bed, and I in the tabernacle. It is right that we be close to each other, more so since one is the purpose that keeps us in prison, the divine will, love, souls. How pleasing will the company of my prisoner be to me! We will feel it together, to prepare the kingdom of the supreme Fiat. But know, my daughter, that my love has anticipated you. I was first in putting myself prisoner in this cell, to wait for my prisoner and your sweet company. See then how my love was first in running toward you, how I have loved you, and I love you. For in so many centuries of imprisonment, in this tabernacle, I never had a prisoner who would keep me company, who would remain so very close to me. I have always been alone, or at the most, in the company of souls who were not prisoners, in whom I did not see my same chains. Now finally, the time has come for me to have a prisoner, to keep her constantly near me, under my sacramental gazes. One whom the chains of my divine will alone keep imprisoned. A sweeter and more pleasing company could not come to me. And so, while we are together in prison, we will occupy ourselves with the kingdom of the divine Fiat, and we will work together, and will sacrifice ourselves together to make it known to creatures. October 7th, 1929, Volume 27, How the Divine Fiat is Inseparable from its Works. The terrible moment of the fall of Adam. I was feeling all immersed in the divine Fiat. Its light surrounded me everywhere, inside and out. And my sweet Jesus, making himself seen, clasped me in his arms, and drawing close to my mouth, sent his breath from his mouth into mine, but so strongly that I could not contain it. Oh, how gentle, sweet, fortifying was the breath of Jesus! I felt reborn to new life. And my always lovable Jesus told me, "My daughter, everything that comes out of our creative hands contains continuous preservation and creation. If our creating and preserving act withdrew from the heavens, from the sun, and from all the rest of creation, all would lose life, because since creation is the nothing, they need the work of the all in order to be preserved. This is why our works are inseparable from us, and what is not subject to separating is loved always, is kept always under one's eyes, and the work and he who created it form one single thing. Our Fiat, that pronounced itself in the act of creating all things, remained in the act of always speaking itself, to constitute itself act and perennial life of all creation. Our operating is not like that of man, who does not place his breath, his heartbeat, his life, his warmth in his work. Therefore his work is separable from him, nor does he love it with invincible and perfect love, because when something is separable, one can arrive at even forgetting about his work. On the other hand, in our works, it is life that we place, that is loved so much, that in order to preserve it, we make our life always run within our work. And if we see any danger, as it happened with man, we lay down our life in order to save the life that has run within our work. Now, my daughter, your living in my divine Fiat began with our asking for your will, that you most willingly gave me. And when I saw you give me your will, I felt victorious, and breathing into you, I wanted to pronounce my omnipotent Fiat in the depth of your soul, to renew the act of creation. This Fiat I repeat always, in order to give you continuous life from it, and as it is repeated, it preserves you and maintains its life in you. This is why you often feel me breathe into you, renewing your soul. And the inseparability I feel is my divine will that makes me love, with perennial love, what we have deposited in you. Every time my Fiat is repeated, each of its truths that it manifests to you, each of its knowledges or words that it speaks to you, is a love that arises in us, to love you more, and to make itself loved. It is our creating and preserving Fiat that, loving its life and what it has done in you, keeps pronouncing itself in order to preserve its life and the beauty of its work. Therefore be attentive to receive continuously the word of my Fiat, for it is bearer of creation, of life, and of preservation. After this I was doing my round, to follow the acts of the divine Fiat in the creation, and as I arrived at Eden, I paused in the act when man rejected the divine will to do his own. Oh, how well I comprehended the great evil of doing the human will. And my beloved Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, terrible indeed was the moment of the fall of Adam. As he rejected our divine will to do his own, Our fiat was in act of withdrawing from the heavens, from the sun, and from all creation, to reduce it to nothing, because he who had rejected our divine will no longer deserved that our fiat maintain the continuous act of creation and preservation in all creation, made for love of man, and given to him as gift from his Creator. If it wasn't that the eternal Word offered his foreseen merits of the future Redeemer, as he offered them to preserve the Immaculate Virgin from original sin, everything would have gone to ruin. The heavens, the sun, would have withdrawn into our source, and as our divine will withdraws, all created things would lose life. But the Word, humanate, presented himself before the divinity, and making present all of his foreseen merits, all things remained in their place, and my fiat continued his creating and preserving work, waiting for my humanity in order to give it as legitimate gift that I deserved. So much so that the solemn promise was given to man, after his fall, that the future Redeemer would descend to save him, so that he would pray and dispose himself to receive him. Our will did everything, and with justice had right over everything. By doing his will, man took its divine rights away from it. Therefore he no longer deserved that the sun give him light, and as the light invested him, our will would feel the rights of its light being torn away. For each created thing that he would take and enjoy, it was tearings that he made to it. If it wasn't for my humanity, everything was lost for man. Therefore, not doing my divine will encloses all evils, and is to lose all rights of heaven and of the earth, while doing it encloses all goods, and acquires all rights, human and divine. October 7th, 1930, Volume 28. How Redemption is Owed to the Faithfulness of the Most Holy Virgin. Faithfulness, sweet chain that captures God. The Celestial Farmer. Necessity of the seed in order to be able to diffuse the divine works. I was following the divine will, and my poor mind was occupied over the many things spoken to me by my sweet Jesus on the kingdom of his divine fiat, and it seemed to me, in my ignorance, oh, how difficult is its realization upon earth, its reigning and its triumph in the midst of creatures. But while I was thinking this, my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, redemption is owed to the faithfulness of the Virgin Queen." Oh, had I not found this excelling creature, who denied me nothing, nor did she ever draw back before any sacrifice, her firmness in asking for redemption without ever hesitating, her faithfulness without ever tiring, her ardent and strong love without ever stopping, always at her place, all of her Creator, without ever moving, whatever thing or incident she might see, on the part of God and on the part of creatures. She formed such bonds between heaven and earth, she acquired such ascendancy, such dominion before her Creator, as to render herself worthy of making the divine word descend upon earth. In the face of a faithfulness never interrupted, and of our very divine will that held its kingdom in her virgin heart, our strength was not enough for us to refuse. Her faithfulness was the sweet chain that bound me and captured me from heaven to earth. Here is why, then, what creatures did not obtain in many centuries, they obtained by means of the sovereign Queen. Ah, yes, she alone was the worthy one who merited that the divine word would descend from heaven to earth, and that she received the great good of redemption, in such a way that, if they want to, all can receive the good of being redeemed. Firmness, faithfulness, unshakability in good, and in asking for the good known, can be called divine virtues, not human, and therefore it would be like denying to ourselves what the creature asks from us. Now the same in the kingdom of the divine will. We want to find a faithful soul in whom we can operate, who would bind us everywhere, and in every part of our divine being, with the sweet chain of her faithfulness, in such a way that we may find no reason not to give her what she asks from us. We want to find our firmness, the necessary shelf to be able to enclose in her the great good that she asks from us. It would not be decorous for our divine works to be entrusted to souls who are inconstant and not disposed to face any sacrifice for us. The sacrifice of the creature is the defense of our works, and it is like putting them in a safe place. So once we have found the faithful creature, and the work comes out of us to take its place in her, everything is done. The seed is already sown, and little by little it germinates and produces other seeds, such that, as they diffuse, whoever wants to can procure for himself that seed to make it germinate in his soul. Does the farmer not do the same? If he has the good of having one single seed, that can be his fortune. He sows it into his field. That seed, by germinating, can produce 10, 20, 30 seeds, and the farmer no longer sows only one of them, but all those that he has reaped, and he returns to sow them over again, until he is able to fill all his field, and he reaches the point of being able to give to others the seed of his fortune. Much more can I, celestial farmer, do, as long as I find a creature with the field of her soul prepared, in which I can sow the seed of my works. That seed will germinate, and little by little it will make its way. It will make itself known, loved, and desired by few, and then by many, that the celestial seed of my divine will be sown into their souls. Therefore, my daughter, be attentive and faithful. Allow that I may sow this celestial seed in your soul, and I may find no hindrance to let it germinate. If there is the seed, there is the sure hope that, in germinating, it can produce more seeds. But if the seed does not exist, all the hopes cease, and it is useless to hope for the kingdom of my divine will, just as it would have been useless to hope for redemption if the celestial queen had not conceived me as the fruit of her maternal womb, the fruit of her faithfulness, of her firmness and sacrifice. Therefore let me do, and be faithful to me, and I will take care of everything else. October 7th, 1934, Volume 33. Reciprocal Love Between God and the Creature. Exchange of Action. Labyrinth of Love, in which one who lives in my fiat is placed. God, sower of the field of souls. I am under the eternal waves of the divine fiat, and my poor mind feels its sweet enchantment, its power and operating virtue, that investing me makes me do what it does. It seems to me that with its eyes of light, it gives life and makes everything rise, and with its empire, it rules over everything. It keeps track of everything. Not even one breath escapes from it. It gives everything, and it wants everything, but with so much love that it gives of the incredible. And what is more amazing is that it wants that the creature know what it does, in order to have her inseparable with itself, and to let her do what the divine will itself does. I remained enchanted, and my littleness was lost. And if it were not that my sweet Jesus roused me by making me his little visit, I would have remained there who knows how long. And all goodness and love he told me, "My good daughter, do not marvel. Everything is possible for one who lives in my will. There is a reciprocal love on both parts, between God and the creature, but so much that the human littleness arrives at wanting and doing her acts of God. And as hers, she loves them so much that she would give her life in order to defend, to love, and give him all the glory, the first place of honor, to one alone of these divine acts. God, in exchange, makes the acts of the creature. He finds in these acts himself the outpouring of his love, the height of his sanctity, and oh, how he loves them. And in this reciprocal love, they love each other so much that they remain imprisoned in each other, but voluntary imprisonment, that while it makes them inseparable, they feel happy because God feels loved and finds his place in the creature, and she feels loved by God and has her place in the Supreme Being. There is no greater happiness for the creature than being able to say, and be certain of, being loved by God. And there is no greater happiness for us than being loved by one who was created by us only in order to love us and to complete our will. Now the creature, while she finds herself in her Creator, would want that everyone would love him, that they would recognize him. And in virtue of the divine fiat with which she is animated, she wants to make arise and call again all the acts of creatures and God in order to tell him, "I give you everything, and I love you for everyone." Therefore, together with the divine volition, she makes herself the thought of every intelligence, the look of every eye, the word of every voice, the heartbeat of every heart, the motion of every work, the step of every foot. What thing does the one who lives in my will not want to give me? Everything and every one. Therefore she says to my will, "I feel the need of possessing your love, your power, in order to be able to have a love that says to you for everyone, 'I love you.'" In fact, in her, our will lets us find the love and the exchange of all the acts of creatures. Oh, my will, in what power and labyrinth you cast the soul, the one who lives in you. It is such and so much that the human littleness feels itself drowned by love, and as refreshment feels the need of retracing everything in order to say its continuous refrain, "I love you, I love you," as outpouring of the great love that my divine will gives to her. This is our life, all of love, our story woven ad eterno, all of love. The one who lives in our will must be the same. There must be such accord between her and us as to form one single act and one single love. Now, my blessed daughter, I want to let you know how we love the creatures, and our continuous outpourings of love that we pour over them. Our prime act of our happiness is love and to give love. If we do not give love, there is lacking to us the breath, the motion, and the nourishment to our Supreme Being. If we do not give love, and love with deeds, we would halt the course of our divine life, that which cannot be. This is the reason why our contrivances, industries, stratagems of love are innumerable, and loving not only with words but with deeds, and works operating without ever ceasing. Now, as in creation we created a sun that with its operating light and heat gives light to everything, it transforms the face of the earth and goes sowing in each plant to some the color, to some the fragrance, to some the sweetness. There is nothing in which the sun does not cast its effect, almost as seed of maturity, in order to render all the plants fit for nourishing man, and giving him pleasure with so many tastes, almost innumerable. In the same way, our Supreme Being reserved for itself the most noble part of man, that is, the soul. More than sun we fix his interior, we dart it, we mold it, and as we touch him, more than solar light, we cast the seed of the thought in the intelligence, the seed of our memory in the memory, the seed of our will in his, the seed of the word in the voice, the seed of emotion in the works, the seed of our love in the heart, and the same for all the rest. Now if he pays attention to us, laboring the field of his soul together with us, because we never withdraw our divine Son, by night and by day we are over him more than a tender mother, now to nourish him, now to warm him, now to defend him, now to labor together, and to cover him and hide him in our love. Therefore we will make a beautiful harvest that will serve to nourish them with us, and to praise our love, our infinite power, and wisdom. And if he does not pay attention to us, our divine seed remains suffocated, without producing the good that it possesses, and he remains fasting without the divine nourishments, and we remain fasting for his love. How sorrowful it is to sow without harvesting! But with all this, so much is our love that we do not leave. We continue to dart him, to warm him, almost as sun that never tires of making its little pass of light, even though it finds neither plants nor flowers for where to cast the seed of its effects. Oh, how many more goods the sun could do if it did not find so many sterile soils, stony and abandoned by man. We are the same. If we find more souls who would pay attention to us, we give so many goods as to transform creatures into living saints and our faithful copies. However, in our divine will, there is no danger that she does not receive our daily sowing, and that she does not labor together with her Creator in the field of her soul. Therefore I want you always in my fiat. Do not let yourself think about anything else. In this way, we will make a beautiful harvest, and you and I will have abundant nourishments, so as to be able to supply the others, and we will be happy with one single happiness. October 7th, 1935, Volume 33. The one who does not live of will of God forms her living purgatory on earth and in prison. The divine love. An impetuous tempest, excruciating scenes. My poor mind, it feels the need of pouring itself into the divine volition as its center, in which throwing itself it feels the breath, the heartbeat, the love, the divine life as its own. Who can say that one can live without breath, without heartbeat? No one. So the poor soul would form the most excruciating purgatory without the fiat, and my human will would cast me into the abyss of all evils. But while I thought this, my beloved Jesus, surprising me, all tenderness told me, "Blessed daughter of my volition, how happy I feel that you have understood that you cannot live without my fiat. For one who does not live in it, not only does she form her living purgatory, but she obstructs all my goods prepared for her. She closes them in me, within my heart, and making me writhe with pain, she forms the purgatory for my love. She suppresses my flames in me, without the relief of being able to communicate my breath, my life. Therefore I feel my breath suffocated. my life obstructed, without the good of being able to communicate myself to the creature. Now you must know that there is nothing done by me in which there is not my primary purpose of making her live of my will. Creation truly serves for this, to make the creature live of my will, and not living of it, she suffocates this life of mine in created things. And my coming on earth was the life of it that I came to give her. Rather, you must know that no sooner does the soul decide to want to live in my volition than my most holy humanity takes its place in her. My blood, like copious rain, pours over her. My sufferings, like impregnable wall, surround her, fortify her, embellish her in an admirable way, as to enrapture this divine will of mine to living in her. My death itself forms the continuous resurrection of the soul to living in it. In fact, the creature feels herself continuously regenerated in my blood, in my sufferings, in my love, even in my breath, in which she finds sufficient grace in order to live of my divine will, because I placed everything at her disposition. As I had my most holy humanity at the disposition of my divine volition, so I placed it, inside and outside of the creature, in order to give life to my will in her. Now, when she decides not to live in it, my blood does not reign, because it does not have whom to regenerate into divine. My sufferings do not form the wall of defense, because the human volition forms the continuous collapse to my works, and renders as impotent my death, so that everyone would rise again in my volition. Now my life, my sufferings, my blood, if the soul does not live of it, are at the door of the human volition, waiting with invincible patience, in order to enter, to assail her from all sides so as to give her the grace of living of my volition. And not entering, everything remains suffocated in me, my blood, my sufferings, my life. And oh, how I suffer in seeing that she does not give me the freedom to give her the good that I want. My love tortures me, my sufferings, my wounds, my blood, my works, as so many pitiful voices tell me continuously. This creature obstructs us. She renders us useless and as without life for her, because she does not want to live of divine will. My daughter, how sorrowful it is wanting to do good, to be able to do it, and not do it. After this I continued my abandonment in the divine volition that had transported me outside of myself. And oh, how horrifying it was to look at the earth. I would have wanted to withdraw into myself in order not to see anything. But my sweet Jesus, as if he wanted that I would see scenes so excruciating, stopped me and told me, "My daughter, how sorrowful it is to see so much human perfidy. One nation that deceives another, and in turn drags the poor people into torment and into fire. My poor children, you must know that the tempest will be so very strong, that it will happen as when an impetuous wind, with its strength, transports stones, earth, trees, in a way that everything remains cleared, so much so that with more facility new plants can be planted. So this tempest will serve to purify the people and to make arise the serene day of peace and of brotherly union. Pray, so that everything serves for my glory, for the triumph of my will, and for the good of everyone." End of October 7th. Fiat.